show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearm.
We have scored a direct stab in those sons of bitches' hearts. We gotta keep running the knife in, though, folks. We gotta keep running in there, not worry what they're doing to us. You wanted to fight, you're getting it. You wanted to overrun us and poison us and take our families and kill us? You will die, not us.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
You're not going to be mentioned in the news if you're not friends with them, if you're not part of the propaganda. And if you look up the word propaganda, that name originated describing the propagation of the faith of Rome.
They gain trust with the promise of friendship. And of course, all they're really doing is positioning themselves as the saviors of mankind.
What we're dealing with here is revelation of the method. The elite believes in their own writings that they must tell you what they're going to do to you beforehand.
Many just simply cannot comprehend, even when seeing the proof of it play out time and again right before their eyes, how someone who tells so much low-level truth about how the system works could possibly be in cahoots with its operators. What purpose could possibly be achieved by revealing its secrets and exposing its methodology? First of all, these agents only reveal the secrets and methods they want us to know. But beyond that, there are certain functions of a COINTELPRO disinfo agent that must be understood. Some of the primary functions of an agent of chaos. 1. To discredit opposition groups by acting as if part of them while engaging in violent or boorish behavior and or promoting outlandish or unsubstantiated ideas that really add nothing of any real importance to the case such a group may have against those in power. 2. To manage discussion or dissent by keeping people in agitation focused on lower level operatives and operations that are the symptoms, not the root cause of the agenda of the New World Order, and thereby act as gatekeepers to deflect any potential heat from the real perpetrators of global mayhem. 3. To inseminate opposition groups with disinformation composed of lies either by omission, half-truth, or straight-up fabrication, so that any process seeking to address real issues or advocate real reform will always remain clouded or misguided. 4. Perhaps the least known and understood, but considered by those in control, primary function of their opinion-shaping agents is what is known as revelation of the method.
What we're dealing with here is revelation of the method. The elite believes in their own writings that they must tell you what they're going to do to you beforehand.
Carrying out what they consider to be their gentlemanly duty of coding their plans and methods in plain sight so that those who fail to see them will be, in their minds, guilty of their own demise by failing to act against them, demonstrating to their social engineers and initiates the necessity and therefore morality of herd management. Alex's job is to put forward a great many things that are true, but to do so in such a sensationalist, over-the-top, and boorish manner as to make them and those who might bring up the same things appear irrational, and thereby serve to dismiss real messengers with real messages as ridiculous.
What have I discovered about Bilderberg? The BBC was able to get the documents decades ago that they helped found the euro, which was actually a Nazi German plan to take over countries economically. No, that's on record. And I've interviewed members of the EU Parliament on the subject who were out there at the event.
But what's that?
3,000 people. They turned 1,000 Bilderberg is heavily involved in the EU plan and helped hatch it, and it is a Nazi plan. It is the ultimate lobbying meeting while you guys have this huge scandal going on. Your prime minister's going there.
Okay.
Balls was just here, Bilderberg group member. We have forced them from cover to admit that there are puppeteers above the major parties.
Now we know that Bilderberg has given us the euro.
It's just difficult for people to comprehend how all of these people on the internet can be agents, but they are. They're working to protect and guard the true conspiracy. So they'll give you information about the Bilderbergs and the Club of Rome. They'll give you information about how, you know, the government is trying to take away people's guns and how they're trying to bring martial law and all of these things. They're going to bring FEMA camps, they're going to microchip everyone, and they just terrorize everyone with this information. But what they never tell people is who is behind it, so they can resist it, so they can stop it.
Yes, I mean, if you talk to Alex for any length of time, you discover all kinds of things that you didn't know about the world.
We've blown it wide open.
You have. You have absolutely blown it wide open. But it leaves me with a huge question for you, Alex. And it's really, you have uncovered the New World Order, which is deadly. It's full of what you call people who are criminals. Well, this is what I'm coming to. It's full of criminals, etc., who seek to run the world and will kill anybody who gets in their way. And you are almost, or have been, a lone crusader powering against them. So how come? How are you still alive?
Why am I alive?
Well, no, which is yes. Listen,
why am I alive?
Which is the explanation? One, they don't exist. Or two, you're part of the conspiracy.
No, let me tell you a story. And my wife got phone calls, and so did I, threatening to kill us. And the people said, and you better take it serious because you were just talking to your dad that was in the hospital. You better shut your mouth or we're going to cut your head off.
But
that's
they were going to kill
that
you,
they listen to everybody's phone lines. They call up and harass people that expose them.
Here to testify that your head was not cut off.
Ladies and gentlemen, if they kill me, it turns me into a martyr. It puts big exclamation points on the end of what I've said.
Alex, if you were any sort of a threat besides the truth, they would have eliminated you long before you ever became a global phenomenon. Acting like your death would somehow cause a worldwide overthrow of those in charge is ridiculous.
The problem is that conspiracy theories like this are believed in.
Hey, listen, I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game. Okay, our government in the U.S. is building FEMA camps. We have an NDAA where they disappear people now. You have this arrest for public safety, life in prison.
You are the worst person I've ever interviewed.
No, it's basically off with their heads, disappear
David,
them,
thank you for being with us.
Infowars.com.
It's gone 11:30. You're watching the Sunday Politics. We have an idiot on the program today. Coming up in just 20 minutes.
You will not stop the Republic. Humanity is awakening. Infowars.com. No.
So this is the exact purpose for Alex Jones. His whole purpose is to bring out those who would be serious resistors to the coming fascist police state so they can be marked and tagged and named and then paralyzed with fear, because one of Jones' tactics is to put people in fear. And when you're in fear, you can't think.
Even people I've hired over the years who are great folks who went to normal school for this go, well, let's use subliminal to help people. And I've got to constantly say, well, that's a second long. It's not completely subliminal, but get it out of there. You know, I don't want to go there because we're so inculcated with subliminally. And I've got to constantly say, well, that's a second long. It's not completely subliminal, but get it out of there. There's subliminal, there's overt, there's color science going into this.
So even though the vast majority of what he says on a low level is absolutely true, he never leads you to the proper conclusion. He'll never tell you about the Knights of Malta running the Bilderbergers, like the Queen. She's a Dame of Malta. And so the whole idea is to leave you in limbo, but now you're exposed, and what do you do? Who do you follow? Who do you vote for? And he promotes men like Ron Paul and others who are phonies.
Well, he won't even mention the name Joseph Rettinger.
Yeah, Joseph Rettinger. He won't mention that name? That Jesuit and high-level Freemason that helped found the Bilderbergers?
Yeah,
that advisor to Winston Churchill, that wicked sinner? No, he won't mention him.
Notice how when Jones finally does hint at the truth, he only says it as a part of the conspiracy and throws up an unmistakable double 666 while doing it.
Joseph Rettinger and others were involved with the Jesuits and are involved trying to set up that empire, and the Catholic Church is right up there, part of the pyramid. There. I've talked about it forever.
No, you haven't. You have not talked about it forever. And you only mention it in this clip to further mislead by claiming Rome is just a player instead of the player, and to try to diffuse some of the heat coming your way.
You know, Rettinger is also known as the Gray Eminence, like in between the Black Pope and the White Pope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what he was.
The Bilderbergers, aren't those the current incarnation of the Council of St. John?
That's right. Prince Bernhard was a Knight of Malta. And, of course, you have Kissinger. He's another Knight of Malta. He's another advisor to the Pope. Kissinger has always been a Nazi.
I'm a patriot. You people are part of a fruitcake cult. Do you understand that? Get it through your heads. Its face is turning blue, and those little eyes are bugging out of that snot-nosed face. You want to fight? You're getting it. You will die, not us.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, of course I can hear you. I just went to you.
Yeah, so first off...
Super male. My weight loss accelerated. My muscle mass increased. I'm angry. I'm not a slave. I've broken the conditioning. It doesn't work on me. God, people are so evil. Why can't America wake up and beat them? Donald Trump's not perfect, but he doesn't want to hurt you and your family. Hillary and Obama want to make you poor and pathetic. We have all their white papers. They hate you. They hate prosperity. They hate God. They hate children. And goddamn them to hell. We're going to find the lever to beat these people, and they're going to be beat. Look at her shark face. Have to look at her with that demon face. That's a frickin' demon. We're going to have President Linda Blair, people, and I'm not going to go along with it. Excuse me.
And the Oscar goes to...
People are so evil. Why can't America wake up and beat them?
On the official app of the White House, Jesuit priest Charles Curry says that Jesuit-educated students are in strategic areas of influence all over the world. John Brennan, the newly elected director of the CIA. Janet Napolitano, third United States Secretary of Homeland Security. John Kerry, United States Secretary of State. Dennis McDonough, White House Chief of Staff. Mark Thompson, CEO of the New York Times and a former Director General of the BBC. Michael O'Leary, CEO of airline Ryanair. Peter Sutherland, Chairman of Goldman Sachs International, the London School of Economics and Financial Advisor to the Vatican. Mario Draghi, President of the European Central Bank. Emilio Botin, CEO of Spanish bank Santander. And Herman Van Rompuy, the first and current President of the European Council. And in this picture you can see him standing on the left, and seated under the pillar is the Superior General of the Jesuits, Adolfo Nicolas, who can also be seen with Jesuit-educated priest Antonio Menini, the Papal Ambassador to Great Britain. The most powerful education institution on earth that has covertly shaped American foreign policy for almost a century, Georgetown University, that was founded by Jesuit John Carroll. In 1919, Jesuit friar Edmund Walsh set up the very first diplomatic school in the United States, where it has trained and still trains United States political leaders. President Eisenhower visits Georgetown President Edward Bunn. and President Reagan with Jesuit Timothy Healy. For Reagan's Secretary of State Alexander Haig was a Knight of Malta educated at Georgetown. Senior advisor to President Nixon, Ford and Reagan, Pat Buchanan. Former warmongering President Bill Clinton. The directors of the CIA, both George Tenet in the Bush administration and the last head of the CIA, David Petraeus, in the Obama administration, and retired warlord Robert Gates are all Georgetown Jesuit trained. It also invites warmongers to lecture and has others on its staff. Georgetown professor, Vietnamese Catholic Viet Dinh is the chief architect of the United States Patriot Act.
Why haven't you heard this information? For one very simple reason. The Vatican also has key agents acting as gatekeepers in the alternative media.
Since Alex Jones is against the Patriot Act, it seems as if he would actually speak about who authored it. But he won't. Michael Chertoff is credited as the architect of the USA Patriot Act. Well, of course he's going to be credited because, you see, he's a racial Jew. So we have to blame the Patriot Act on the Jews. Okay. But what's the real catch here? But he, in fact, co-authored it with Viet E. Dinh, D-I-N-H. Now, Viet Dinh is a Roman Catholic Vietnamese attorney. And this Mr. Taylor goes on to say, Viet Dinh of Jesuit Georgetown Law, Jesuit College. That's right. Viet Dinh is a professor at Georgetown Law Center. And Viet Dinh also served 2 years as a U.S. Assistant Attorney General. And during that time was instrumental in drafting the USA Patriot Act. So while he's working at the Department of Justice as an Assistant Attorney General, he is also involved working with the Jesuits at Georgetown University in writing the, 200-page Patriot Act? Yeah. Ready to foist upon the American people after 9/11 that the Jesuits caused via Edward Cardinal Egan, that Knight of Malta, head of the American branch of the Knights of Malta, using his most faithful Knight of Malta and head of the CIA, George J. Tenet, also a Jesuit trained at Georgetown. So the Jesuits caused 9/11, and they bring forth their Patriot Act as a war on the liberties of the American people, because we must remember the Jesuits are the greatest absolutists in the world. They hate limited government. They hate constitutional government that would be a specific grant of power, and the rest of the powers be reserved to the people pursuant to the 9th and 10th Amendment. So we have here that this Viet E. Dinh was a Jesuit coadjutor, a Roman Catholic from Vietnam, and of course Diem of Vietnam was a fascist Roman Catholic. His brother was the Archbishop of Hue, so we have some very noble-blooded Vietnamese that were part of the Vietnam War, and then also descendants that come over here, been trained by Jesuits, and now we had one as an Assistant Attorney General. It goes on and says, Dinh is also a member of the CFR. Wow. So Alex Jones will not touch Viet E. Dinh, this Roman Catholic Vietnamese man, Jesuit trained at Georgetown, an Assistant Attorney General, as one of the co-authors of the Patriot Act.
Right.
Why will he not go there?
This whole Bohemian Grove video was, they got it out because he was given it by the Jesuits. He's part of them. The whole thing was a big fake that he moved in there.
And I saw that clip with him and David Bergen, and you knew they were working together in that supposed little confrontation. It's really quite telling. And then the confrontation between him and George Bush when Bush was governor of Texas, when Alex Jones says, what about the CFR? What about the Federal Reserve? These Sims man's leading you people astray.
Sir, shouldn't we abolish the Federal Reserve and the CFR?
And they escorted him out of the building. When it would have been anybody else.
They wouldn't get near Bergen if it would have been anybody else.
Right. So it was obvious from those two clips that he was a coadjutor, just like that other coadjutor that made, Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore, when he pretends to be an enemy of Bush when he's at Bush's ranch. And Bush says, hey, just why don't you get a job there, Michael?
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
So the Jesuits are operating on both sides of the dialectic, on the alternative media, on the supposed opposition, as well as the conservative right wing.
What do you think, the lizard people are in charge?
And further exposing Alex Jones, I want to say one positive thing about him, and that is that on all the low-level stuff, he's right. That the fascists and the communists are financed by the same people. That the CFR is for one world government. That the Illuminati is involved, and that the globalists are all behind this. He is very much right in all the details that he sets forth, the concentration camps, et cetera, et cetera.
All things he's backing off on now and being repackaged as alt-right. when there was a time not long ago when one was either mainstream, and thus part of the false right-left paradigm, or one was alternative, i.e. outside of the paradigm.
But never, never does he cross that line and step over into the area of the Jesuit order and its power over the Vatican, and thus the Vatican's relationship to the New World Order and its control of high-level Freemasonry.
Oh, he's scared to death to do that.
He will never talk about it. Another thing, this exposure at Bohemian Grove, quote-unquote. Why did not Alex Jones show the connection of a statue there of a Roman Catholic priest, Jan Nepolik, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, who was put to death by, I believe it was the king of Czechoslovakia in the 13th century, it's Bohemia, something like that back then, for refusing to divulge what was confessed to him in the confessional. And he has his finger over his mouth there at Bohemian Grove in a kind of fashion. Well, this is typical Jesuit. And the Jesuits, if you even go to Wikipedia and you read about this man, you see that they love him. They have greatly exonerated him because you see he was a great protector of the confessional, of which the Jesuits are. That's why the Jesuits moved American common law to Roman civil law. Under Roman civil law, whatsoever is confessed to a priest in a confessional cannot be forced to be divulged in court. But at the canon of the common law, it can be forced. It can be held in contempt if you don't tell what was confessed to the confessional. That international system of espionage and intrigue. Another thing Alex Jones will not touch is he will not touch the leader, the real founder of the Department of Homeland Security. Not only that, but John C. Gannon, who's an Irish Roman Catholic and a member of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. He's also a Knight of Malta, a CFR member, affiliated with Jesuits of Georgetown. He says John C. Gannon, founder of the Department of Homeland Security, is a member of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. Other Homeland Security conspirators are Emilio T. Gonzalez, intimately involved with the Department of Homeland Security, is a Knight of Malta, who answers to Edward Cardinal Egan, that Knight of Malta, the Archbishop of the capital of the world in New York City, and Michael P. Jackson, Georgetown grad, another Knight. So the Department of Homeland Security is run by the Knights of Malta, who was created by a Knight of Malta, John C. Gannon, who was given the highest award by President George Bush for civil service, because this guy was in the CIA for some 23, 24 years. And now he is intimately associated from Georgetown University, the real capital of America, dictating policy to whoever resides in the White House. So there's these kinds of people that Alex Jones will not interview.
Yeah,
and he will never attack them, and he will never expose them.
My issue is I'm always accused of being some type of Catholic agent or a Vatican assassin. We make that joke, all because there was a black guy named Alex Jones. He's like 65 years old, who is a Catholic. That's not me. Just whatever, man. I just don't have time for it. A lot of people get obsessed with Protestant, Catholic, and that's why we can't ever get together around liberty and defeat the New World Order, because everybody obsesses over whether you're black or white or Catholic or Christian, Protestant or agnostic. I mean, I just don't get into it.
Translation. That's why we can't unite under a controlled opposition gatekeeper whose purpose is to protect the architects of the Antichrist control system, keeping people in perpetual agitation while uniting the naive with Mystery Babylon.
So I just really, it's an opiate of the masses. Again, the Vatican runs it, Israel runs it, the Masons run it. Let me tell you who runs the New World Order: corruption. It's a philosophy.
So it's just a nameless, faceless philosophy, right, Alex? Except, of course, when it's the Bilderbergers and the elites. You contradict yourself. The question is, where is the true power behind the throne? The buck always, always goes back to Rome. And you keep everyone preoccupied on second, third, and fourth tier operatives. It is crafty you also don't point to the Jews like a lot of other disinfo agents. This way, you can lump those pointing to the Jesuits in with those pointing to the Jews and act like their allegations are equally unsubstantiated and you are the rational one. Or do you?
There is a Jewish mafia at the heart of the New World Order.
So, according to Alex, the leaders of the New World Order are Jewish.
And I'm just trying to sell the philosophy of liberty and the philosophy of family and private property and pro-life. And I'm trying to be a unifier, not a divider.
But I had to hang up on the guy and delay him out because there's no point in letting him put out his COINTELPRO. What's COINTELPRO? According to FBI records, COINTELPRO resources were expended on infiltrating,
disrupting, marginalizing, and/or subverting groups suspected of being subversive. I can't tell you how many times I've just gone to any political event.
Constantly put on the defensive against the federal government. Every single time. Be it the FCC coming to town and trying to shut down our local micro broadcaster. Be it the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration coming to town and trying to shut down and train the police officers to do blood withdrawals. Be it the BATF now.
That's an example of COINTELPRO.
And I'm trying to be a unifier, not a divider.
Here's another great example of COINTELPRO.
You are not going to get away with your activities. You are not going to get away. Hey, ladies, the Second and First Amendment. Get the hell out of my face. I'm here to tell you right now that we are not your property.
You're not part of the team. You're not part of the team. I mean, I almost started crying last night when I was at that demonstration. And I saw these families bringing their children up to me for me to shake their hand, and I just look at their innocence.
He's trying to take over our rally that a lot of people worked on.
Is that once they cause all the infighting and division and problems, then everyone spends their time on that, and then you can't expand your organizations.
All right, is the freedom movement divided in Austin? Somebody doesn't want to play nice.
And I'm trying to be a unifier, not a divider.
And every time I go to a big city and see provocateurs, I've seen it in Austin.
Are you ready to
That's COINTELPRO. Playing that against people, creating racial division, infiltrating groups, trying to radicalize them, trying to get people to commit acts of violence so they can put them in prison.
And I'm trying to be a unifier, not a divider.
You have never had more solid evidence that Alex Jones is working for the bad guys than right here, right now. Because what he's doing, he's coming to a peaceful rally. He's trying to stir up violence.
They want to radicalize mainline libertarians, conservatives, so we can be politically demonized, so we don't become mainstream and take our country back.
Us look like lunatics. Number one. Number two, he gets us divided amongst ourselves.
The reason I know is my dad came to the protest and I didn't notice him. Because the whole time I was there, I had like COINTELPRO poking me and getting in my face. They send in people to cause violence. They spread lies about you.
I'm here being friendly.
We wanted to give you a speaking spot, but instead of working with us, you started yelling on
Well, you sit in here and you're freedom the enemy. That's a diversion. That's a diversion. Pure diversion. Wow. That's guilty. If you're not, that's guilty. That's guilty.
And now you are acting like it's appropriate to just come in here and climb right on top of us.
Don't worry. Like COINTEL. Exactly like COINTEL. City Austin.
So you should be lifting us up and empowering us instead of holding us.
I wasn't lifted up or empowered.
When you see them demonizing people like Ron Paul, myself, and others, you know it is a COINTELPRO operation. We, the patriots, the constitutionalists, we're the good guys. We're trying to save the republic. And anybody that stands against that is a treasonous, traitorous, larcenous enemy of humanity. Period.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy. There's no in between. You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear.
But getting back to COINTELPRO, infiltrate your group, and we need to incite violence to run off reasonable pacifists in your group, and so we can have you arrested and, quote, break up your group. They also want to radicalize the message. Get up! Get moving! Get moving, soldier! Defend the republic!
No! He had to move it! No! He wants to put us in camp! Yeah, she wants to put us in camp! She wants to put us in camp! She wants to put us in camp! Hey, she wants to put us in camp! Easy there!
You know you are good. You know, listening, that you're not COINTELPRO. Because that's how COINTELPRO works so well. I'm the real thing. Do you have any discernment out there?
And I'm trying to be a unifier, not a divider.
let me ask you one thing. What did you think of Bill Cooper?
Well, Bill Cooper was an alcoholic, and I didn't ever try to attack him. He got mad because the network put me on at night, and he thought, and I'd really never heard his show because I didn't listen to a lot of shortwave. I was busy. But I'd seen his book. It was all about flying saucers, so I didn't finish it.
Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, miserable, stinking little coward liar. Now let me say that again so there's no mistake about it. You can all tell Alex Jones that I said this, and I suspect he's listening because he does.
And I'd really never heard his show because I didn't listen to a lot of shortwave. I was busy.
Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, stinking, rotten little coward liar. I was only on the Alex Jones show one time. It was years ago when I didn't know who he was, when I didn't realize what a liar and a coward and a sensationalist bullshit artist that he is. He was on one little FM station down in Texas. He wasn't on all the stuff that he's on now. And I agreed to be on his broadcast. That's when I was doing guest appearances on broadcasts years ago. I was not cut off. I did not use any kind of foul language whatsoever, and I stayed on for the whole show. Some of you in Texas know that that's true because you heard the broadcast and you taped it. Later, when I found out who Alex Jones was and what he was doing to the truth, what a cowardly liar and sensationalist he really is, every time he called me after that, I have always refused to appear on his broadcast. Absolutely refused to lend him any credibility whatsoever by appearing on his broadcast. And that made him very angry.
I just feel sorry for Bill, and he really let him set him up and, ran out there and helped him kill him. And it's just a big distraction, sir. I don't talk about flying saucers and all that stuff, man. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for Bill. But anybody, he was a liar, though. One time I had him on the radio, and he was cussing, and I delayed him once. Then I said, please don't cuss again. I delayed him again, and I said, okay, thank you, bye-bye. And then he went around saying he never cussed. The guy cussed on air. He cussed at everybody. And I didn't ever try to attack him. Anything else, sir?
I believe you. I know you're putting out a lot of truth out there, and I'll tell you the best
Look, man, some dead drunk, and I drink a few beers too, but the point is he would get falling down drunk, okay? And I didn't ever try to attack him. And I was nice. And you called me 7 years after he's dead and asked me about him. It isn't about Bill Cooper. Okay? It's about Northcom, the New World Order. Get our heads screwed on straight. Deal with the issues. I asked callers to call in and talk about what we're going to do about what's coming down on us. Not a dead, alcoholic, crazy person.
I'm Welsh myself from the Pendragon line. But specifically, this is what's manifested in the new.
I've also revealed him for the lying sensationalist bullshit artist that he is by every once in a while bringing to your attention the lies and the deceit and the rumors that he spreads over the airwaves that are not good for any of us, and they're not good for the nation. They are especially not good for militia and patriots. The most disgusting broadcast he ever did was on the New Year's Eve, 1999, bringing in the year 2000, which he went completely out of his mind and claimed that Russia had launched intercontinental ballistic missiles with multiple warheads at the United States of America and actually panicked millions of people who were putting their children and their belongings in their cars and heading for the hills.
Vladimir Putin, who is known as Vladimir the Ruthless. This person is on an unbelievable power trip and resembles a demon. He is a creature of the IMF and the World Bank and international communism. He is a former KGB head. And this information is vital, ladies and gentlemen. We are seeing the New World Order really come out in full force. More wars than have been in the last 50 years are going on right now. The war in Chechnya is raging in Grozny with, well, reports of hundreds to thousands dying.
Is that true, folks? Are there more wars going on right now than in the last 50 years? Are there hundreds of thousands of people dying right now in Chechnya? Listen to this. This man is just making it up right out of his head as he goes along.
I can't even keep track of all the developing news that's coming in. I'm not going to get into I'm not even going to say it's 6 to 7 reactors across the country. I'm not even going to. It's bad, and I got this news about the Pennsylvania plant early yesterday, got it again off air, confirmed it with someone that is 99% accurate, about like I am. As the developments move forward with this Y2K and this gear up for clamping down in America and Russia and around the world by globalist forces, we'll be bringing you the news as long as we're here on the air. So it's happening there, it's happening here. There they're using the war with Chechnya. Here they're using Y2K and the threat of terrorism. Oh, this is extremely serious, and Yeltsin openly has been threatening us weekly to nuke us. I mean, it's just getting insane. And absolutely, this looks like just one more ratchet on the takeover of America. And yes, they have an extreme strongman in KGB leader running Russia right now. They have deployed their missiles against us and their submarines, and have already delivered fully functional missile cruisers to China. Yes, he took the codes off, and he took away our first strike capability. By first strike, that means if missiles are in the air, let's say 4,000 of them. Russians have got a lot more than that. Right. 4,000 missiles coming in, subs launching, suitcases going off. We have to wait until we absorb the first strike. That will mean virtual annihilation to our military.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Bringing you continuing, unfiltered, unabashed reality. I am Alex Jones. I am your host.
And I am William Cooper. And I'm your non-fear-mongering, truthful host. What is he trying to instill in his audience here? With what you've heard, what is he trying to make the audience feel? If it was December the 31st, New Year's Eve again, and you knew that at the stroke of midnight, everybody was expecting everything to come to a grinding halt because of Y2K, what would this have made you feel like? What would be your emotional state right now, if you were to have an emotional state? What was the main thing that he concentrated on?
That Russia was imminently going to attack the continental United States.
You got it. That we were going to be nuked by Russia.
Right.
He spent 45 minutes of the first hour preparing his radio audience to believe that Russia was going to nuke us because of Y2K.
Right.
Yeah, this was a setup from the word go. This guy is not on our side. He's a commercial broadcaster, number one. And number two, he was never a member of the Patriot movement at all. All of a sudden, he started picking this stuff up and just running with it. I don't know why he's doing this. I don't know if he's just a dupe or if he really is a change agent. But I'll tell you this. Everything that happened on December the 31st was set up by the government, and everything between these radio stations and what the government was doing was coordinated.
The only thing I've got to say about that bunch is they keep claiming they're Christians, which they don't demonstrate any evidence of.
Claims to be a Christian. Preaches New Age nonsense.
And we'll get into other issues in news with David Icke. But, David, going back 20 years ago, because I remember first reading one of your books about 17 years ago when I'd first gotten on air. So I read it and found it to be interesting. I forget which book that is. Maybe you can remind me. But you were talking about a three-dimensional, the universe being a hologram, projected by what? Again, this isn't even attacking Christianity or religion. This reaffirms my faith. This reaffirms my faith because, this is a giant universe, hundreds of billions of galaxies. Of the universe, the age-old questions. Where did humankind come from? What is our ultimate destiny? The answers to these fundamental questions are hiding in plain view. We came from the universe. We came from all that is creation. We are part of the universe. We come out of this creation. The answer to the question of our existence is wonderment. imagined the potential of our species. People say they want to travel to space as if it's some distant place when we are part of the universe living on an incredibly rich and gorgeous planet. I don't mean to sound new agey, but go out there and look into this.
Join with the human spirit and everything that is decent and wholesome and good, everything that your conscience, your compass tells you is good, that you will bloom and that you will literally accelerate towards a higher level of enlightenment. I'm going to say it again. Your body will fail. You will die. But the ideas, the inventions, the works that you commit while you are alive and conscious will have reverberations throughout time and space for eternity. You will live forever through your children and through other humans' children. This is the great secret.
Clearly, the great secret, Jones forwards here, is the repackaged mysticism of 33rd degree Freemason and fellow exposer of the secret societies while belonging to them, occultist Manly P. Hall. Hall also spoke of a destiny and providence in association with the USA.
The big challenge now comes, because the promise to this country in Providence was if you'll hit your knees, you'll ask God, you'll get it.
The problem is, Alex, we don't know what God you are invoking. The biblical God is not a genie in a bottle, and the God of Gnosticism is actually the devil, before whom I will not bend the knee.
But if we now don't deliver, you don't ask God for providence and then not deliver. Now we are bound forever. And if we don't deliver this plan and free humanity, we will be bound to the ninth circle of hell. I'm bound to this truth, and I will never stop delivering. It's time for you to transcend Hollywood and all these other weak people and submit yourself to God. You won't find God in these schools. You won't find God in these churches. They're all there to deflect. You're going to find God in your heart.
Another subtle serpentine lie. As Scripture reveals, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Stay tuned for how to really find God.
You are traveling through time, but not just your physical body. There are always in the universe multiple repeats at different levels of the same thing. So all you've got to do is realize your whole life has been a system trying to keep you from reaching your potential. Everything is geared to keep us not just childlike, but in a stupor. So you don't grow to the potential, because if you grow to the potential, you won't care about fads and fake status and garbage and Kim Kardashian. You will care about your honor and your genetic legacy of struggle and war and love and passion and art and exploration and trailblazing that is your ancestors' gift. I don't care where you come from in the world, what your background is. You are incredible. You're not junk. You're amazing. And you need to realize it, and you need to know it. And you need to take it in your hands of the challenge. The minute you tell your brain, and your spirit tells your brain that, hey, I do have a destiny. I'm important. God made me in his image. This is incredible. I'm on a huge space-based platform orbiting a star. This is only the beginning. Then you will feel yourself reaching forward in the time-space continuum as all of those people back you, all those people that came before us. You will realize you are them. You will have their memories, their instincts, everything. You'll be a young man, you'll be an old man. You'll be a soldier, you'll be a doctor, you'll be a teacher. All of that data is already there. All of it is already there. And the system flicks on like switches, and I'm giving you the deep secrets here, folks. Flips on and turns off the switches they want to use us as biological robots. Well, I'm not their slave. I was made by the creator of the universe. I have a goal. I have a mission. And I will not be controlled by these people. I will step into the destiny I've been given.
Providence hung heavily in the air, and it is huge.
The wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their homes and then redistributed all across the world. But that is the past. And now we are looking only to the future.
In the words of Donald J. Trump,
we are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny.
Trump, my spirit tells me, needs to be supported. This victory is part of the destiny of the republic. This country is the vision of incredibly pure people who wanted to build up society and create a launch pad for the technology we now enjoy. And they believed we would be pure and appreciate this technology in their incredible crystal visions. Let's build what they envisioned, because we're their children.
If this is not a veiled call to build the New World Order by another name, I don't know what is.
And I will try to build up humanity or I'll die trying. And it's in that reaching out that the universe then joins you and providence comes into play. You don't ask God for providence and then not deliver. Now we are bound forever. And if we don't deliver this plan and free humanity, we will be bound to the ninth circle of hell. But you've got to take that step and commit. And it's a spiritual choice. Then there's the written word passing on information, the digital, the spoken. And then there's also what they've proven, the transmission of the sixth sense, the spiritual energy, the connection that we haven't been able to quantify yet, but we know is there. And as you do those things, your spirit, your information reaches into the future, and I'll be communicating, if the species survives, 1,000 years from now, 10,000 years from now, in whatever incredible thing we become in God's plan with those humans. And that is simply my love. It's not for arrogance, it's not for ego that I want to be remembered and known. I want to know my ancestors, and I want our future children to know us. I want to commune with them forever, living forever through them, guaranteed life after death, proven life after death. That's what this is.
Obviously, most Alex Jones neophytes, who've only begun to follow him since his big neocon repackaging unveiling on the Piers Morgan show, where he talked big about guns, which is enough to make him a good guy, in the eyes of those who never get any deeper than rhetoric, are not going to understand the difference between mystery school teaching and actual biblical Christianity when the deceiver uses the terms God and Bible and Jesus interchangeably, trying to make it seem like New Age mysticism is actually biblical. This underscores the importance of a first-hand understanding of the Scriptures, that we be not deceived by wolves in sheep's clothing. It is important to measure all spiritual teaching against the infallible Word of God, because there are many seemingly nice people in the truth community who expose a lot of truth about a good many things, but when you dare to question the validity of what they are promoting by holding up Scripture and saying, "Thus saith the Lord," these people, generally so nice and truthful at other times, invariably start snarling about what a bunch of religious Pharisees you are, and that you are the problem, rather than their obvious lies contrary to what God has said. Reminiscent of the original deceiver, who did not call God a liar, but rather called what God had clearly said into question.
And the Christians were like, at least people speaking for them, that's why the devil's winning, because you people keep speaking for Christians. Alex Jones says they're going to live forever, just so you could feel like you were a bigger man than me. Hey, this is about humanity surviving and reaching for the stars and recognizing good and evil. That humanity has incredible potential. Look at how far we've come. Think of how far we can go because we are made in the image of God. Which is what the Bible says, but I know you don't like that. And so again, I'm just here trying to get people to think about how big the universe is, to get outside the globalist TV-controlled matrix box. I was talking about the eye has not seen, ear has not heard what the Creator has in store for us, and that the universe is the evidence of the Creator. And only you, devil church people, you Christianoid, Pharisee demons, the ones Christ beat with a whip, only you could twist that and take the beauty out of the universe.
There is no beauty in the universe outside of fellowship with its Creator, and there is no fellowship with its Creator outside of truth, and there is no truth about Him outside of what He has revealed to us. So contradicting His written revelation is as contrary to beauty in the universe as can be. Alex Jones claims to be a Christian and not New Age, yet he has featured a steady parade of New Age guests over the years, openly promoting their beliefs.
And we'll get into other issues and news with David Icke.
David Icke is one of the biggest liars, disinformation, bullshit artists that ever lived. Stay away from that guy. Stay away from his books. Stay away from his lectures. Stay away from him, period.
Let me get the story right. The press claim that you claim to be the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yes, you see, the thing is that it's quite funny, really. You know, 2,000 years ago, had a guy called Jesus sat here and said these same things, you would still be laughing. It's really, really funny that we've not really moved on that much. The negativity, the thoughts that I'm talking about that are very destructive, are pouring out of this planet
Well, let me
every
interrupt
day.
you. Was it a great shock for you to discover this at 38?
Well, I think the word is gobsmacked. But again, you know, the best way of removing negativity is to laugh and be joyous. So I'm delighted that there's so much laughter in the audience tonight.
But no,
but just let me say this.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you.
It's fine.
So what's David Icke doing on TV?
We have a lot of different producers. You just get tired of the real meat and potatoes, the real issues. So he's gone for all the ridiculous Hollywood stuff of David Icke and the blood-drinking lizard people. So what does David Icke do? He talks about the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, these global elitists, these power structures, all real, all true, all demonstrated by bills and executive orders and prime ministers and premiers and presidents. All real, meat and potatoes, something you can bite into. Something that is easily demonstratable. And then you've got David Icke at the end of all this. He says, by the way, they're blood-drinking lizards. Blood, Al Gore needs blood to drink. So does Prince Philip. I mean, it's asinine. And it's being picked up by people. And so it discredits all of the reality people are talking about. And that's the problem with David Icke. He's got a good line to a point, and then he discredits it all. It's like a turd in the punch bowl. That's his job. He's got this nice big thing, this nice fruit punch, nice ice cubes floating around in it, and then he takes a big dump right in the middle of it, and no one's going to drink out of that punch bowl.
The key point came in the late 1980s. It's a strange story. I was working for the BBC still at the time, and I just felt this presence around me. Like when I was in a room alone, there was someone else there. And I remember sitting in the Kensington Hilton Hotel working for the BBC one night on the side of the bed, and I said to whatever, for God's sake, if there's something there, would you please contact me, because you're driving me up the wall.
Welcome to the mysterious stranger.
What?
Hello.
Who are you?
An angel.
What's your name?
Satan.
Uh-oh.
The voices continued. They told David that he was the Son of God and that the world was about to be torn apart by natural disasters. David was panicked by these messages, and he sought advice from a psychic.
She starts telling me that I was going to be world famous that I was going to go out on a world stage, face enormous opposition, and tell the story and basically reveal to the world what's really been going on.
Tidal waves, eruptions, earthquakes.
When these things happen...
As they will.
As they will, my goodness, they will.
When is the first thing going to happen?
Well, it will certainly happen this year. The first sequence will begin this year.
What will happen if they don't happen? What will happen to you?
They will happen because if they don't happen, there will be no Earth.
Of course, the cataclysmic flooding did not occur.
And it's being picked up by people, and so it discredits all of the reality people are talking about. And that's the problem with David Icke. He's got a good line to a point, and then he discredits it all. It's like a turd in the punch bowl. That's his job. He's got this nice big thing, this nice fruit punch, nice ice cubes floating around in it, and then he takes a big dump right in the middle of it, and no one's going to drink out of that punch bowl.
As we go in, through, and beyond, as we talk to one of the most prolific researchers, one of the most prolific minds out there in challenging the established false reality, is the great David Icke. David Icke, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Alex.
He has also featured Jordan Maxwell, one of the biggest New Age disinfo artists, hosting him on the show even since Trump was elected.
Joining us is a man I want to invite back anytime he wants in the new year for 2 hours. He's a hard guy to get on, Jordan Maxwell, and he's been through a lot of hacking himself and a lot of persecution. We're not going to get into that today, but believe me, when you're over the target, it certainly happens.
But I was being exposed at a very early age to the really totally dark side, a side of the occult world that most people don't even want to think about. I woke up one night in the middle of the night and I went totally ballistic. When I woke up, there was an entity in the room, and it was, I cannot tell you how evil the presence was to my spirit. Whatever it was that was in my room was so profoundly evil. So I started having, for a lack of a better term, otherworld experiences at a very early age, going out of my body. That was a whole off-the-wall experience, too, at 8 years old, 9 years old. One night when I was a small child, my dog woke up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up, my dog was howling and barking, and, of course, waking up the neighborhood. And my dad yelled, go quiet that dog. And I knew that there was something bad because the dog was going out of his mind. And so I ran out to the back porch, and I'm telling you, the dog had cornered between my backyard fence and my dad's garage. It had cornered a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a little small, about 2 foot high, or I would estimate about 2 foot high, full developed dinosaur. I actually, with my own eyes, saw 6 pterodactyls in Los Angeles back in I would say probably 1980, 81, and I saw this little black dot, and it was almost not perceptible, and then I watched it because it seemed to be coming my way. This thing was flat out moving, and it was a huge pterodactyl. It was enormous in size, and it was moving at an extraordinary rate of speed. And on Saturday morning, I was in a restaurant back in '59, and there was a young little girl sitting next to me, and I started a conversation, and so we became very good friends. So one night she came over and knocked on my door, and she said, my dad wants to talk to you. So I went with her, and I knew with an immediacy that this was a very special man. And then, just very nonchalantly, he said to me, he said, remember when you were about 10 years old, 8 years old, something like that, back in Florida, and remember how your dad built a new back porch, the old back porch was falling apart, and you were talking to God that night, and you asked God to let you do something important with your life? He said, remember that? I know that because we were there. We saw you. We've been watching you for a long time. We brought you here.
Well, for the next 51 and a half minutes, we are joined by the legendary Jordan Maxwell, esoteric researcher, master at decoding a new world order.
So joining us, ladies and gentlemen, is Jordan Maxwell. Jordan, good to have you here with us.
Well, I'm glad to be with you again, Alex. I don't know what we could add to what you just said. I mean, that pretty well says it all.
Another person Alex Jones has promoted over the years is hip-hop artist KRS-One.
Can we shout out Jordan Maxwell real quick?
With the understanding of birds of a feather flock together, let's examine some of his beliefs, shall we?
We need to start calling God she. That messes up their whole psychology. That destroys the whole thing. Like, they can't operate on that level.
One question, you were speaking about why haven't they killed you yet, or things like that. I wanted to speak about Illuminati and if you believe in that, if it's infiltrated hip-hop. And a lot of people say, like Jay-Z, you know, Kanye West, they have affiliations with that. And when you reach a certain level in hip-hop, that they approach you. I'm wondering if anybody has approached you on that, if you're working with them, because some people I've heard say they believe KRS-One is a Mason or something like that. And if you didn't mind speaking on that and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, where do I start? No, I'm not a Mason. Let's start there. I studied Freemasonry, though. Studied for about 20, well, coming up on 20 years now. Studied Freemasonry. I've known Freemasons all my life. They trust me with their secrets. They trust me with their symbols. They trust me with their knowledge. I'm considered a 33-degree Master Mason, but I'm not a Mason. I'm sort of what you would call an honorary member because I understand the truth. Freemasonry is about the building of man as Solomon's temple. As Solomon builds his temple, this is how you should be building yourself. And as one of Solomon's temples, you are also building the world to be a better place. That's Freemasonry. Those that know the truth know what the Illuminati is. You know what Freemasonry is?
Yes, we do.
They want to create a world where everybody is happy all the time, doing all of the things that, if you're from a good religious upbringing, is wrong to do. If you're not from a religious upbringing, but you have a good brain and you understand the purpose of morals and ethics, it's still the wrong thing to do. If you're a thinking person. Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else and presenting their societies as desirable to the profane, so that you'll go knock on the door and say, hey, can I be a member? And be initiated with the promise of learning some great secret. What is that secret? The secret is how to control everybody else. And you never understand how to control everybody else until you get to the top of this pyramid of initiation. Most people never make it past the third step. All above that are carefully chosen and nurtured and taught. And Americans for all these years have been looking around for the enemy. They've never been able to find an enemy. So those who control them were able to control them even better by giving them an enemy. That's what Stalin and Churchill and Roosevelt determined at Yalta. Who was going to be the enemy post-war? Turned out to be Stalin. And there was going to be this phony Cold War so that the population would never discover the real enemy. And I'm talking about the population of the Soviet Union as well as the rest of the world. You see, the enemy has always been here. It's your uncle, your aunt, your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your nephew, your nieces, who belong to the fraternal orders collectively known as the mysteries. The very highest degrees of which, combined together, make up a secret order known as the Illuminati. Their goal is to destroy all existing religions save theirs, all existing governments save theirs, and shackle the mob in a system of eternal oppressive debt chained to a computer for the rest of their life, in a propagandized world to make them believe that they are happy in this system. Now, do you think they're succeeding? Haven't I described to you just now exactly what is going on in the world today? Yes, they're succeeding. They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening. You don't even recognize half the weapons that they use against you. And some of them seem so insignificant that you don't even try.
See for yourself if what Cooper just said here about their methods and how they make their societies look appealing and how they pretend to be on the side of humanity while working toward their perpetual enslavement as their overlords is not exactly what lurks behind the doublespeak of KRS-One and the ideology and methods of Alex Jones.
In fact, you know that the only reason you can even speak the word Freemasonry and Illuminati is because the true secret society is operating on us right now and you do not know. Those who are really in control, we don't even know their names.
Right.
We will never know their names. And here's the secret to life right here. The ones that are in control are righteous and good. The world is controlled by righteous people. Those righteous people make you believe that they must be feared so you don't rob them and beat them and run up in the White House and demand justice.
Why would we have to demand justice from people that are righteous and good? Shouldn't that work hand in hand?
These people keep big security all around them. Why? Because they scared.
The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion.
Just to put a period here. So Freemasons are Freemasons and Illuminati is Illuminati. Illuminati means illuminated ones. There's nothing to fear there.
You see, the enemy has always been here. It's your uncle, your aunt, your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your nephew, your nieces, who belong to the fraternal orders collectively known as the mysteries. The very highest degrees of which, combined together, make up a secret order known as the Illuminati.
My reality is just a little bit different. When I do book signings, the CIA comes and gives me their card and say, good book. CIA journalists, agents, field agents, they come through. Here's the card, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. Be like, wow, they bought the book. This is the world I'm in. I don't understand, yo, Chris, they got the big brother, and yo, conspiracy. I don't know about, I'm the conspiracy that the Illuminati need to be worried about. I'm the conspiracy you need to be really worried about. The Illuminati is the Illuminati because they follow their purpose. Now who are you? That's the question. We sitting around thinking, the minute you put Illuminati on your mind, they got you. The minute that's on your mind, because first of all, Illuminati don't even exist. It's a term we're throwing around for people we don't understand.
So, the Illuminati is the Illuminati because they follow their purpose, but they don't even exist. Got it. If you are confused by this metaphysical salad, don't worry. It is purposefully confusing. It is the enlightened way of trying to spin evil into good, falsehood into truth, ergo confusion. As Christians, we know that God is not the author of confusion. So that narrows it right down to where such things come from, no matter what amount of self-deception those pursuing truth apart from the truth engage in.
And if you dig into the heart of any man, it is good.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
All people are suffering from problems that they face in their lives, and it comes out to us as corruption and evil. But if you know the truth, you know there's no such thing as corruption or evil in physical nature. So what is the real problem with people? The real problem is we have psychological disorders. We have depression. We have hungers and thirsts. We have losses.
And we have sin. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and are justified freely by His grace through the redemption that came by Jesus Christ. Again, we must hold Scripture as our guide, The reason all these groups hate Scripture so much is because the Word of God is sharper than a two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is the discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart, and therefore exposes the lies of those who put darkness for light and light for darkness, which the workers of iniquity who do their deeds in the dark and rely on deception to enable their aims hate. And apparently, KRS-One sees Freemasonry as beneficial. Could these be Alex's views also? Could he also be affiliated with Freemasonry? Perhaps not as an official member, but like KRS-One, an honorary member, an agent of the secret order, which we know is ultimately controlled at the top by the Jesuits?
You know, these mystery schools that go right back to Egypt, not just Babylon, are doing good. I've had a lot of ancestors that were Masons. A lot of the founders were. But the system uses that. Any secret society, I've had a lot of ancestors that were Masons. A lot of the founders were.
Today, user Funketeer17 sent me this exceptional video from October 24th, 2013, in which Alex Jones shows his real colors and the symbol of the Octagon Templars. Now, why would a patriotic American, as he claims to be, show a Swiss octagon flag and the symbol of the Swiss banks, these same banks he claims hating so much? Octagon, Swiss Templars and Alex Jones. Well, why do you think it shows the wheel behind him? This is Freemason stuff. This is Rotary stuff. There. It says resistance. Infowars.com. Well, here's the wheel again, the Rotary Freemason wheel he's having behind his head. This is supposed to be a guy who knows about symbols, you know. Why would he put that behind him? Well,
J.H. Towson in Clowns said this, quote, "As the mountebank delivered his harangue, the clown would repeatedly poke his head out from behind the curtain, making fun of everything his master said, parodying his patter and twisting the meaning of his words. The mountebank played the perfect straight man meanwhile. Here he was, trying so hard to hawk his wares, and his assistant was doing everything possible to undermine sales. The merriment was, of course, intentional. While the clown seemingly encouraged the public not to buy the proffered merchandise, the mountebank knew full well that the bystanders would easily be converted into customers as soon as they forgot that they were, in fact, supposed to be buying. Once the audience had been effectively hypnotized, once its judgment and willpower had been weakened, the real sales pitch could begin." End quote.
There it is again, the same wheel, Freemason stuff. And there it is again, the same thing. Freemason, Rotary wheel behind the head of Alex Jones in his show, together with many more symbols. Octagon is real, people. The Nazi Templars of the fair aristocracy rule, and don't show these symbols for nothing. Just open your eyes, people. It's right in our faces. Now, this is Octagon, all right. Octagon, selling their products, probably from Basel, from the chemical plants in Basel. There's Novartis and Ciba. Well, what an angel, eh? Isn't that an angel, selling this to us? Wow, with the Templars logo. Wow, I wouldn't take it. No, thank you.
I bought into it. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that everything Alex Jones said was good and that his motives were pure. And I'm in the office, I'm watching Just truckloads of videos going out the back. Not his videos, other people's. And I watched how they would call up and buy people's videos for nothing, giving that person absolutely no profit, forcing that person to decide on, well, do they want exposure on the Alex Jones show, and do they want to make 50 cents a video? And here's a lump sum of $5,000 or $10,000, or not. Now, I've never done this. I always have promoted the people that come on this show so they get 100% of the money that they put into their videos as a profit, because I want them to make more films. I want them to be successful. I watched in the office as he was out of town once, and I was covering for him. Again, this is a story I've never even told my friends. And he had some kind of a special where if you bought right now, you would get an autographed copy of a video or something. They ran out of autographed copies. I watched as some of the office workers signed the videos Alex Jones. That's right. You got videos with Alex Jones's autograph on it. It's not even his autograph. It was from one of his employees in the office who forged it. So you'd buy it. That is not a person of integrity, folks. And you watch the spin that goes on. The headlines, the spin, the jumping to conclusions. The backtracking on predictions. It's all about me. And you understand what we have understood now for years. The guy's dangerous. He's dangerous to freedom. He's dangerous to any cohesive movement. He's dangerous to anything that doesn't exalt him as the king.
My entire life purpose has been completed. I will continue on. But now, I realize I've won.
Any news that comes out of that channel, out of those websites, I can get anywhere else. It's cut, paste, and embellish over there. I can talk about the integrity of the man. How many times he's lied to you on the air. I could talk about being in New York and not participating in the going to the strip clubs or whatever else is going on. I could tell you that I smoke marijuana with Alex Jones. I could tell you that I've drank with Alex Jones, and when he gets drunk, he can't hold his liquor and wants to fight everybody, his friends.
A fellow producer related this story to Shelley Tumbleson. Shelley Tumbleson is a cable access producer and actually worked at the same station as Alex Jones in Austin, Texas. So this guy knows him firsthand. This is called the parking lot incident.
Yeah, and this is notorious in Austin alternative media.
Alex challenged a man to step outside into the parking lot. This man had ridiculed him, I guess called him a jarhead.
Yeah.
I mean, it was common there to call him Jarhead Jones.
Yeah, and this guy would call into Alex's show and prank him, okay?
Yeah, and so Alex didn't like him calling in. He would do it to all the shows, but apparently he really liked calling in and pranking Alex. And so he challenges this guy to step outside. This man, Steve, they're calling him Steve, took him up on it. The guy said, okay, let's go. He challenged a man to step outside. The man took him up on it and whipped him. Not being able to accept defeat, Alex claimed that 4 men with knives attacked him to stifle his free speech. Okay, many of us have been that humiliated in our lifetimes. But then he got Daddy to call in a favor, and he actually got the FBI to go to this defunct bookstore, now defunct, named Fringeware, to find this guy's address. He did this by concocting a story of the guy, supposedly the guy that he was in a fight with, being one of the leaders of a terrorist organization. And he also made charges that this guy had child pornography. Now, remember when Alex was at the border, the Canadian border? What was one of the things he said that they suspected him of, supposedly?
Yeah.
Having child pornography on his computer.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, and why would this keep coming up like that?
But there's something else. Here, look. When the cops came, the cops were called, okay? When the cops came in, of course, Alex was the one bleeding all over the place. When the cops came, Alex was ranting and changing his story with each breath. Began to talk of his importance and his family's wealth and his relatives in the FBI.
Wait, so when the cops came, Jarhead was ranting and changing his story with each breath and began to talk of his importance and his family's wealth and his relatives in the FBI.
And wait,
now
we have to tell Alex's side of it.
Okay.
According to Alex's version, Alex got jumped by 4 thugs with knives.
Yeah.
Now, he walked away from this uncut and okay, except he was bleeding because he got punched in the nose and he got popped a few times by the guy that he mouthed off to begin with. If you're jumped by four men with knives, how do you come away from that without a cut on you?
And what Alex's people did then
a knife cut.
Was start calling all these little radio shows and telling Alex's side of the story.
That's what happened the next day.
Yeah.
He had all his minions call every radio
His
and
cult
access
members.
show to tell his side of the story.
That Alex was jumped by 4 terrorists.
And then when Tumbleton's, the anti-Alex camp tried to call those same shows to present the other side of the story, they were not allowed to.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
This guy kept calling me at unlisted numbers. He'd call me on studio lines that nobody knew. He'd say, look, we're going to kill you or beat you if you don't shut up. I'm real serious. And one time I said, you know what, F you. Why don't you just come do it? And I hung up the phone. I'm walking out of the TV station about an hour later. Nobody's with me. And 4 guys come up with hoods on their heads. They said, well, we're here. And one of them punches me in the nose and breaks my nose. And this was in the news here. And then I went apes, started attacking them and beat up a couple, and they beat me up, and they jumped in their minivan and drove away. The cops show up. Well, that license plate doesn't exist. Looked on the video camera. But the point is, and then I went on air and I said, go ahead and kill me. I'm never going to shut up. And they left me alone for that point.
Seems Alex is leaving a few details out of this later revision of his account of the fight, particularly the bit about knives he must have realized people would recognize as an obvious lie, and also the key bit about his connections in the FBI. Which is the part of the story of interest in establishing him as having the family history and therefore the deep-rooted connections, which would be expected of a high-level COINTELPRO agent.
And I've got basically full access to Google. Most people that have sites just have smaller access to the analytics because I've been working with Google, working with the devil for at least 18, 19 years. We've got full access. We don't do whole shows off the data we've got, but some of it's proprietary. We're not supposed to show it. It's basically like an NSA interface. When I say that when in the late 80s, my mom and dad had multiple discussions, and my dad would say, let's talk about it privately and stuff like that with my mom, so I never even heard all of it. He won't talk about it today, where the CIA tried to hire him, because I had some family that did stuff for the CIA.
Perhaps the most damning thing to Alex Jones's credibility is the fact that he clearly has demonstrated in the past he knows exactly how COINTELPRO works, he knows exactly the effect of disinformation agents, and he knows exactly how the left-right paradigm is a flawed concept established to manage resistance. Yet he has constantly flip-flopped between exposing and promoting these very same things. Keep this in mind while watching the following footage.
Remember a few months ago, I did an analysis with pen and paper on the document cam here in studio of how the two-party systems keep you in a controlled paradigm from getting outside the box and seeing the big picture. I want to encourage everybody listening. We need to shatter the left-right paradigm. And I wanted to draw a picture for listeners out there, a very simple, crude picture that describes effectively the false left-right paradigm. The Republican Party props up the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party props up the Republican Party. If you had one of the political parties standing on its own, when the wind came along, it would just fall over. When pressure, revolutionary pressure from the population not liking what's going on, or new groups wanting the power structure, which is the main source of revolution. Most of it is driven by evil, just like the elite is driven by evil. Very rare to have an altruistic revolution. By itself, a single-party system will fall over. Okay? But if you take the two-party systems and you lean them up against each other, this is basically the arch. Their force going together keeps them together and makes it become a very strong, stable platform on which they can build their hierarchical New World Order system. Okay? So the current two-party system has been dominated and bought up and controlled by the elite that sits atop it. Now, the elite with a one-party system would not be balanced on top of one party. They would be subject to being toppled, being pushed over easily. But you put the two parties up against each other, they form a royal arch. And now it's very hard to separate those two because they're leaning up against each other. We need a global carbon tax. But there's an elite funding that. No, the elite, the big corporations are against it because the media advertises that big corporations and oil companies are against it. That's part of a sophisticated game that, the big corporations say publicly, we don't want this, it's bad, while they actually fund it. They know the public's awake to the fact that they're corrupt, so the public will be fooled and go and support the agenda. It's please don't throw me in the briar patch. It's the old briar rabbit situation. Here's the political field, and this is where the population resides. And then we supposedly, through the grassroots, come up into the political party. Okay? And then they lean on each other, as I was saying earlier, and support each other. If they're standing alone, the pressure of revolution or of new power structures will easily topple it and blow it over. But leaning together, it's not going to fall down. Okay? Now, I know that's simple, but let me give you an everyday example of this. As I said, the left sees all of these evil mainline Republicans who we know are liars and who the media even exposes as being liars. They see them lying about everything else. So if the Republicans come out and say, we're against a global carbon tax, well, then by God, I'm for a global carbon tax. And so that's how the two sides leaning up against each other give the other side support. And so Democrats over here, Republicans over here, Republicans attack Barack Obama. And then the Democrats attack John McCain. And then the population who's down here is trained to see John McCain as representing them personally, as being their daddy, of where their personal power comes from, of their camp, their brand name, their brand of soda, their brand of automobile, Ford or Chevy. And so this is a controlled paradigm. And so we have Republicans attacking Democrats, and that's the force against them. And you have Democrats attacking Republicans, and that's the force against them. And really, it's one unit supporting themselves and containing revolution, so that the people who were down here never learned that there is a world outside of this controlled paradigm. We are locked within the left-right paradigm. And then it becomes this huge pageant, this huge distraction where we analyze every facet of the two political parties, never realizing they themselves are simply a front or puppets for a larger power structure. Now, this is incredibly simple, but that's how this works. And then the two parties can limit the issues that are debated to this controlled paradigm. They can limit the scope of differences, which, if you look at it, there's almost no difference between the two, instead of getting the people to look outside the box at the wider world. I was being taught a left-right paradigm. It didn't fit into anything that I had read, previous, to that 100 years, where people were taught liberty versus tyranny, freedom versus slavery. And I learned that the same interests were controlling both political parties in almost every nation, to try to shatter the left-right paradigm, to get people to start thinking outside the box, and really looking at the official history. I mean, the elites admit what they've done in their own annals, their own documents, their own articles. Absolutely. And they always laugh at us and say the public won't read this. I mean, Carol Quigley was let into the elite's own documents in the 60s, wrote Tragedy and Hope, admitting we control the left, we control the right, we put in the communist and the fascist, we want a global dictatorship run by the banks.
If I didn't vote or did vote, he still was going to be the president. And this is the point. This is the point.
If they controlled it before, why would they let go now?
Boom!
I mean, for people who sit on the air.
Wait a minute. Wait. Here it is. If they controlled it before, what makes you think they're not controlling it now? The country was on a verge of revolution. They threw a black man up. Now we like this.
How was this line of thinking any less rational in 2016 than it was in 2008? Yet, Alex went all in for one of their candidates, even though, if they controlled it before, why would they let it go now, is still just as valid of a question.
All I want is people focusing on the puppet masters instead of they move forward, and then you'll know if he's real, except put a bullet in.
Right.
After years of demonstrating that he knew exactly how the two-party system was set up and operated by the social engineers and the inherent fallacy of the left-right paradigm, Alex Jones began to deviate from this course prior to the 2016 presidential election.
Palin says she's seriously interested in 2016 campaign. Hey, I'll say it. Palin's a lot better than Jeb Bush or Chris Christie. She's the real deal. She's the real deal.
Sarah Palin was chosen by Henry Kissinger to be the running mate of John McCain. John McCain is a pro-government bailout, pro-New World Order, anti-gun candidate. That's all you need to know about Sarah Palin.
And that's why the system attacks her and says she's dumb because she's a woman. I mean, Sarah Palin is so much better.
They are using her to take over the Tea Party movement. And they send in this floozy, this tart, to sit there and sell you on this. Now,
she'd make a hell of a VP. That's a winning ticket right there.
They all work for the same people.
She'd make a hell of a VP.
Obama's a puppet. Sarah Palin's a puppet.
That's a winning ticket right there.
They're all pieces of trash. Stop it. Stop being idiots.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine Cruz, Palin?
That's how they keep Republicans and Democrats on the reservation as moron, idiot slaves.
But, I mean, I've listened to them both, read their writings. They're both really smart.
You know, Miss Alaska, just total airhead puppet.
The winning ticket is Ted Cruz, Sarah Palin, or...
Look at how duplicitous she is.
Rand Paul, Sarah Palin. I mean, just, it cannot be beaten.
She gets the most hardcore neocon talking points. They roll the tart out for everyone in the world to sit there salivating at this disgusting grandma.
I'm sorry, I'm salivating.
All these old Republicans are going to sit there licking their lips, looking at Sarah Palin in her little hooker boots and her little hooker outfits, just drooling over her.
I'm sorry, I'm having, oh, they call them precipitation dreams. I better stop right now.
Look at how duplicitous she is. Is there no end to the fraud?
I never get butterflies. We're talking maybe every 10 years. I got them real bad right now. Another Drudge link is that a black activist, the police are reporting, is the main one issuing the latest threats to kill people, kill minorities. This is another form of false flag that we see more and more by the left to basically stir up cultural and racial division. This is part of the left's plan.
But who controls the left, Alex?
To destabilize the country with civil unrest ahead of the 2016 election. Donald Trump is really aware of what's going on in the world. He's really been proven right over and over again, and it's because he's got some really good advisors. And the last month and a half or so, I was kind of let into just some of the facts of how much research they're really doing, and the fact that they're aware that there is basically a Cloward Piven plan to take down this country.
Can we talk a little bit about the Heritage Foundation? They happen to be on the list as far as a group that co-opted the Tea Parties during the tax protest this year.
Okay, that's an important thought, because the Heritage Foundation from the very get-go has always been run by the Knights.
Donald Trump is really aware of what's going on in the world. He's really been proven right over and over again, and it's because he's got some really good advisors.
Remember that Frank Shakespeare was one of the first heads of the Heritage Foundation, and he was a Knight of Malta involved in the Kennedy assassination. We also have Opus Dei in the Heritage Foundation, too. The Heritage Foundation is always touted by Hannity. On his Hannity's America, he brings it up on a regular basis. And that Heritage Foundation is also somewhat tied, to, at least to the maxims of the John Birch Society. It's all the false right-wing solution to the left-wing problems that these same men cause.
Which always occurs whenever there's a Democrat in office.
That's right. So the Democrats get to be the straw dog. They get to be the whipping boy to justify fascism.
There is basically a Cloward Piven plan to take down this country.
Speaking of taking down this country, why don't we go back in time to the year 2000 to the event that cemented Alex Jones's true identity. Note that I am not endorsing their actions or condemning them, But whatever one thinks about John Joe Gray, his beliefs and actions, one must conclude, given an objective assessment of the evidence, that he operated according to the U.S. Constitution while law enforcement disregarded our nation's founding document in their campaign against him. Understanding this is key to understanding Alex Jones's act of betrayal against Mr. Gray and his family, as will be shown, especially in the context of Jones' self-promoted pretense of being on the side of U.S. constitutional patriots and against the New World Order. First, the 2020 version of events.
Their leader is John Joe Gray. How you doing? A 51-year-old self-proclaimed freedom fighter.
So we're sitting here surrounded by armed guards, barbed wire, sandbags, and a bunker. What's going on here?
Well, the harassment from the county, sheriff's department, and the feds is what's going on out here. They had threatened to come in on us here a few weeks ago.
He's a wanted man, indicted for the assault on 2 state troopers, a felony. But Gray says those are trumped-up charges, and he's not surrendering. And guns are what got Joe Gray in trouble in the first place. His problems with the law began last spring when a car he was riding in was stopped for speeding. Gray was packing a pistol, illegally, according to the state trooper who pulled him over.
He said, you got a permit? I said, no, sir, it's my God-given right to carry. And so he stepped back and pulled his gun out. He said, no, it's not. And I said, yes, sir, it is.
And that's when a scuffle began.
I felt something hit me upside the face. I don't know if he was trying to give me a headlock or hit me. I ain't going to say he did, but it wound up in my mouth.
And you bit him?
I bit him. I hung on to him.
Joe Gray says that incident in this county was all in self-defense. And even though he was indicted, he refuses to appear in court. He says the judges and, in fact, the entire judicial system is corrupt and conspiring against him. Because of those beliefs, he refuses to obey the law.
What if everyone felt that way?
Well, then it'd be a free society then, wouldn't it? You'd be a free nation again like we used to be.
Now the Gray family's version of events.
We're going to read a press release here from the Grays. That's John Gray. That's the family that's having the trouble with our law enforcement officers here in Texas. They're out in East Texas near the town of Trinidad. And there have been a lot of rumors floating around back and forth, a lot of things said about them. And so they released on Friday, this is Saturday the 19th of August, they issued a press release to basically clear up the rumors. So I'm going to read this verbatim, their press release. It says, press release, statement of facts. In order to clear up misinformation surrounding the Gray family, we have chosen to release a statement of pertinent information regarding and in relation to the current circumstances. The following statement is true to the best of my knowledge. Number 1, arrest warrant for John Joe Gray. According to the information we have, Joe has a warrant issued for him for the charges of disarming a police officer and assault on a police officer. The circumstances surrounding this are as follows. On December 24th, 1999, an individual with whom we were acquainted, named Curtis Harton, arrived at our house near Trinidad, Texas, and suggested we take a ride to Palestine to look at a cabin which Joe had built for a friend. When asked if he were going to carry a gun, Joe replied he thought it wasn't such a good idea as he thought the police were watching closely. When Curtis said he was going to carry and suggested Joe do the same, Joe agreed to do so. Other guns in the car belonged to Curtis. During the trip, Curtis, driving, continued to exceed the speed limit, and Joe cautioned him about it. Curtis insisted he had the latest anti-radar gear. As they approached Palestine, Curtis sped past a DPS car with 2 officers inside. The officers turned around, followed, and stopped the vehicle in which Joe was a passenger. After being told to get out, Curtis quickly exited the vehicle and said to Joe, "Sorry, Joe." The other officer went around to Joe's side, opened the door, and asked Joe if he was armed. Joe sat there calmly and replied that he was. After the officer asked Joe if he had a concealed carry permit, Joe replied he didn't need one. It was his God-given right and confirmed by the Constitution. The officer shouted that it was not a right, drew his pistol, aimed it at Joe, and screamed for Joe to get out of the car. As Joe reached up to move the automatic seatbelt so he could exit, the officer started shouting, "He's going for his gun! He's going for his gun!" Joe calmly replied he wasn't going for his gun and sat back down with his feet on the ground as the officer continued to shout. The other officer at this time jumped in the back seat, grabbed Joe's right arm, and handcuffed it. As the officer started pulling on Joe's arm and trying to get his other arm, Joe pushed back against the officer. At some point, Joe was hit in the side of the head by one of the officers, and following that, both of them ended up on the grass with the officer's arm around Joe's head and face. At that moment, Joe bit down. The officer started yelling, and the other officer started spraying Joe with pepper spray. Joe then quit biting the officer. After first aid from an EMT who had arrived, Joe was taken to the county jail in Palestine. Joe remained in the Palestine jail for 2 weeks without any charges being filed. During the time he was in the jail, they attempted to inject Joe with a white fluid in a needle and syringe Joe described as a size intended for large livestock, saying it was a TB test. Joe refused and was kept in solitary confinement much of the time. Joe was not allowed any phone calls for the first 3 days. After 2 weeks, during which I paid my locally obtained attorney $1,000 to file a writ, Joe had a hearing which he assumed was related to the writ. No writ was ever filed. The hearing was a bond reduction hearing. Originally, Joe's bond was set at $300,000, and despite not being charged with anything, after Joe's bond was reduced to $52,000, again no charges. We used a rent house we owned as collateral and bonded Joe out. Some of the conditions of the release imposed by the judge included not being on any property with a firearm, nor could he own any interest in any property on which firearms might be carried. Furthermore, he was to report to a probation officer weekly in Athens, despite not being charged with anything. Joe came back to Trinidad and hasn't left. I guess we're known as some of those weird people who still believe in the Constitution as well as the Bible. God's Word is the sole guide for our family. We are not members of the Kingdom of Heaven Church. We believe in God's Word as it is written. We also believe the Constitution is the law of the land as it says, and we believe and will follow it as it is written and as our founders wrote and intended it to be. Our faith in God is strong and unbending, and our resolve is without compromise. May God bless you and be merciful to you according to His will. Alicia Nell Gray.
They do have a tape of this man here on screen being beat up by a DPS officer, and he defended himself by biting the man in the thumb. And the judge said to the DPS, "You beat him up, not the other way around."
That's a judge.
That's
that
exactly
that.
what happened there, and now he cannot leave his property.
So how does this all pertain to Alex Jones? Jones went to the Grays' property under the pretense of helping their cause by bringing publicity to it. He and his camera crew took extensive video of the Grays, their family, and their property. What happened next is something only the weaseliest of sellout weasels is capable of. To quote from the article, The Alex Jones Affair, A Christian Patriot Family Betrayal, on the website Christian Media Research, what makes the Gray case particularly interesting is how the Patriot community has been deceived concerning what has really occurred there in Trinidad, Texas. The Genesis Communications Network, the so-called Patriot Network, and their premier host, Alex Jones, have now been implicated in the betrayal of the Gray family. After the Gray siege began, Alex Jones and an associate named Mike Hansen went to the Gray property and asked John Gray if they could videotape an interview. John Gray agreed under one provision. The tape footage was to be used for a documentary that could only be viewed after the siege was concluded. Alex Jones agreed to these conditions. It seems that after Jones shot the video he wanted, including footage from within the premises showing crucial defensive locations from within the Gray residence, Alex Jones turned around and sold the videotape to a television network to be aired on the 2020 News magazine program. Furthermore, it has now been established that Ted Anderson, the head of the Genesis Communications Network, has participated in a cover-up to keep the public from learning the truth about the treachery of his top host. This incredible betrayal is very similar to that of Judas with his famous kiss. Both betrayals involved monetary compensation for the treachery. In the case of John Gray, the Alex Jones betrayal has placed the lives of the entire Gray household in jeopardy. Remember the last time the authorities moved against Christians in Texas in a siege situation, they murdered everyone there, including the children. Because the Grays revealed significant logistical information to Alex Jones on camera, that information is now in the hands of the Texas authorities because of the unwanted television broadcast. John Gray sought to get those facts out to the public. Based on his contacts with Genesis, it quickly became clear that Genesis was seeking to cover up the matter. Thinking that Genesis was unaware of the type of treachery Alex Jones had committed, Gray attempted to inform the radio network of what had happened. After several attempts of this nature, John Gray concluded that Ted Anderson, the head of Genesis, directly censored one of his own hosts, John Stadmiller, that was attempting to tell the Gray story on the air. At that point, Gray was under the impression that Stadmiller was interested in airing the truth, but he was being censored by Anderson. This was only partially true. After John Gray realized he had been betrayed by both Alex Jones and the Genesis Network, he wrote a letter to Christian Media's James Lloyd. We have reproduced that letter in its entirety. When I received the letter from John and Alicia Gray, I had already had several interviews with the Genesis people and become convinced that the organization was completely corrupt and unscrupulous. It should be noted at this juncture that Alex Jones represents what is usually called the franchise at Genesis. His program is the #1 show on the network. Indeed, the entire business plan at GCN has been focused on furthering the listenership of Alex Jones through affiliate AM and FM stations. It's clear GCN has sought to make Alex Jones the next Michael Savage or Rush Limbaugh. The fact that radio figures like Savage and even the CFR-affiliated fraud, Rush Limbaugh, have become so popular is because the country has experienced a shift in consensus to a hipper Republican right from the previous liberal left. Thus, GCN clearly hopes to ride that political swing to riches with their golden boy, Alex Jones. Such media franchises are worth millions of dollars, thus any public scrutiny that would expose Alex Jones as a cheap entertainer posing as a patriot would be disastrous for the large investment that Genesis has made in the Austin-based broadcaster. After the Christian media newspaper printed the story of Alex Jones's betrayal of a patriot Christian family to the mainstream television media, I received an angry phone call from John Stadmiller. Although John Gray seems to be under the impression that Stadmiller would have told the truth on the air concerning Alex Jones had it not been for Anderson's censorship, it is clear that John Stadmiller's sympathies are with Alex Jones. Skipping down the article, apparently the listeners are considered fair game. For instance, at least one GCN listener wrote to me stating that GCN, which is backed by a gold and silver brokerage, and the Berkeley water filter people, had offered a precious metal coin as a premium to anyone that made a specific donation to another patriot broadcaster named Pastor Butch Paw. This listener sent in funds, but Ted Anderson, who heads Midas Resources as well as Genesis, refused to honor his own offer. There are several other incidents of this nature that indicate John Gray's expectation that Alex Jones and GCN are actually interested in the truth is unrealistic. Christian media has repeatedly sought to expose the treachery at the Genesis Communications Network for several years now. They stole their original equipment from another patriot network named Republic Radio. Fraudulently claiming they had purchased the network, the management of Genesis literally backed up a U-Haul and loaded up the broadcasting equipment while the rightful owner was out of town. The victim of this theft was Loris Tompkins, the owner of the now-defunct Republic Radio network. Loris then formed the Heritage Network and promptly sued Genesis for their theft of her assets. In an interesting side note, although the Genesis Network was defended by a high-priced law firm, Loris was helped by certain Patriot figures conversant in law as she sued Genesis on a pro se basis representing herself. This was because the stolen network represented her entire net worth and she was virtually penniless after being fleeced by Genesis. Ted Goldfinger Anderson, the key man at Genesis and gold broker Midas Resources, on the other hand, is said to be a millionaire. In case anyone is interested, Loris Tompkins has now been proven to be the wrong party. On February 22, 2001, Genesis settled with Loris Tompkins for a significant sum of money. This is the equivalent of a tacit admission of guilt. Incidentally, a complete history of the Genesis Communications Network, including its unsavory origin through theft and deceit, is covered in the book Shortwave Wars. Over the last couple of years, John and Alicia Gray have sent out several handwritten letters updating their status. They have steadfastly stuck by their charges that Alex Jones sold them out to the authorities. Conversely, Alex Jones has steadfastly refused to publicly account for his role in the matter. Genesis and every host that has any knowledge of the matter has uniformly refused to address the issue in any public forum. All callers to any of the various GCN programs that even hint of mentioning the matter are immediately taken off the air and hung up on. The Genesis tactic has been to completely bury the story and refuse to allow any scrutiny of Alex Jones. At this point, it should be clear to all informed parties that the trust which has been placed in the Genesis network in general, and Alex Jones in particular, is misplaced. To put it another way, would you want to be in a foxhole with someone who would sell you out for money? James Lloyd. And now the John Gray letter. Dear James Lloyd, we support you in what you are teaching. We know the frustration within your heart about friends you think you have that forsake you. A story I can tell you about Ted Anderson and Alex Jones, Genesis Communications Network. I don't know if you are familiar with my situation here in Trinidad, Texas or not, but my name is John Joe Gray. I've been in a standoff with the highway bandits since January 8, 2000 when I was released from jail. We got word the authorities were coming in on us in August of 2000. Alex Jones and Mike Hansen came out late that night and did some videotaping at the gate. Alex promised me this would only be used for documentary purposes when this was all over. We had several witnesses to this. Alex came back twice within a week or so and wanted to film more. He also assured us again none of the video would be shown anywhere. Alex later called and asked about 2020 interviewing me. I did the interview at my gate, not down at my house. Alex kept asking me to let 2020 video at my house, which I kept telling him no. I told Alex he was the only one I had let video around the house, and that was only for a documentary. The day 2020 was to air my story, Alex called me and said he had done something very wrong. He had let 2020 have the video. They aired it, then Patriots came and talked to me, John Stadmiller being one of them. I told John that Alex said he had sold the video to 2020 for $700. A few days later, Alex and Mike showed back up out here, wanting to know how we could work this out. I told Alex just to apologize to me and to get on air and apologize and tell the Patriots what he had done. Alex was afraid the bad Patriots would take him out. Those were his words. I talked with John Stadmiller on the air about people betraying me and mentioned Alex's name. After I got off the air, a guy by the name of Keith, who knew Alex, came on the air. Keith said Alex told him that he had a signed contract with me. John wanted me to come back on the air to verify if this was true. When I called back, Ted Anderson would not let John put me back on the air. After the show, I called Ted Anderson at his request. He wouldn't let me talk on the air because he didn't want his host to be squabbling on the air. I just wanted to verify that I didn't sign a contract or give Alex any permission to air the video on 2020. This guy Keith also said on the air that day that Alex received $25,000 for the video he sold to 2020. We found out later that Alex had sold the video to 2020 before coming back the second time. This is what Alex told us. We shall know them by their fruits. You cannot serve two masters. God be with you and keep you and bless your network. Joe, Alicia, and family.
Did you ever interview the John Gray family and sell the video to 2020?
Nope, none of that's true. I appreciate your call. Thank you for the call. Look, sir, you got your plug, and then you got to sit there and spew your propaganda. I'm not... Let me just explain this to people. And folks always want me to answer these questions,
You ever forget how the internet works? It recycles. So why don't you need to answer this? I have answered this. And for some reason, you guys will never go into your little forums and give people my answer. So here it is again. I am not the 57 or 56-year-old Alex Jones Scientologist public relations person. I'm not a Scientologist. I don't know any Scientologists. Okay, do you understand that? You understand that? Is that through your head? I did nothing to those people, the Gray family, but helped them. That's pure manufactured propaganda by dirtbag scallywags. Okay? All made up.
Notice the denial followed by diversion. The caller didn't ask if he was really this other guy named Alex Jones. He didn't ask Alex Jones if he was really Bill Hicks or some other diversionary nonsense. Disinfo agents have curiously been spreading like wildfire since Alex's cover has been blown and who he is has been exposed more and more in an attempt to try to discredit all evidence showing him to be a fraud by association with obvious bunkum.
The old discreditation by association routine.
So, is it possible to identify where the footage obtained by 2020 is from? First, we can establish that Alex met the 2020 crew, including John Quinones.
Nice to meet you, sir. Finally, yes. You bet. On our visit to the compound, we met Alex Jones, a radio talk show host from Austin.
Secondly, we can verify that the sensitive footage of the Gray family and the setup of their property and defensive positions seen in the 2020 report is exclusive footage obtained by 2020, meaning it was purchased by 2020 from a secondary source.
He now lives like we used to, without electricity or running water, mainly because he hasn't paid his bills.
Here.
In this exclusive video obtained by 2020, you can see that adults and children live in a strange world where the American flag is flown upside down. The little building with the initials of federal law enforcement agencies is the family outhouse. And the vehicles here sport license plates issued by a church called the Kingdom of Heaven.
Thirdly, we see Alex Jones right in the footage, indicating the strong likelihood that it was shot by his crew.
Just last night, I didn't know what to bring.
Throughout the compound, the adults all carry weapons. Men wear their pistols tucked inside their boots. Women coddle their rifles and their babies around the same shoulder.
Footage obtained from Alex Jones and company showing the Grays' defensive positions, key for developing strategy for an illegal raid of their property, verifying the Grays' account of Jones's treachery.
As you drive around the compound, you can make out the sandbags, presumably used for cover in case of an attack. And there, behind a metal door, a bunker with a caution to authorities, kids inside.
Fourthly, we can hear what is unmistakably Alex Jones's voice and the cameraman talking to him by name right in the exclusive footage obtained by 2020.
My God, it's a whole bunch of them. That may not be feds.
At night now, the men on this encampment patrol the grounds as sentries, and they also use video cameras to document any movement.
Get all this, Mike. I'm getting it, Alex.
And any movement at all is suspect.
Who sent you?
So who are you going to believe?
Did you ever interview the John Gray family and sell the video to 2020?
Nope, none of that's true.
I'm getting it, Alex. I'm getting it, Alex. I'm getting it, Alex. I'm getting it, Alex.
But maybe selling out the poor humps who actually operate by principles and virtues you preach without practicing is just how one achieves prosperity. After all, that's really what it's all about, right?
Donald Trump's will is that you be prosperous and that you be successful. Donald Trump is not satanic. He does not want to see you poor. It's not some new age term because they use this term, but it's God. It's Christ energy is dumping into this planet right now. We're being bathed in the embryonic fluid of the birth of something magic. But all of us individually have to collectively decide we want to give birth to what God talked about in the Bible, that the eye has not seen, the ear has not heard. We have to decide we care. And we can do anything we want.
Again, it must be asked, what God is Alex Jones referencing? Is it the living God of Scripture, or is it the God of mammon, the God of prosperity and power in this temporal realm?
It's time to take charge of this third dimension and beyond.
I know I'm evil, but I try to be good, and I hope God forgives me.
He will, Alex. If you will confess your sins and truly ask his forgiveness, he is faithful and just to forgive you, me, and anyone else our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness.
But according to the Word of God, there are two forms of sorrow for wrongdoing. One which is a momentary regret that holds on to the seed of its sin, and one that plucks it up and rips it out and throws itself before Almighty God in true repentance. For godly grief produces a repentance that leads to salvation without regret, whereas worldly grief produces death.
Trump doesn't believe in the golden palaces he lives in and the suits and the super hot wives. He does that because he knows that's what you've been captured by.
So Trump's deceiving us for our own good? By the way, I'm not captured by such things. In fact, showing the world that earthly success, power, and material things as one's primary focus does not draw me in. It causes me to turn away. And I don't think I'm alone in this. Those who are enticed by such things are those following Lucifer's deception up the steps of the pyramid, whether they know it or not. So what kind of a world will they create that is any different than the cesspool they've already created?
And his whole life has been a plan to hijack their system, and they've only figured that out at the end. If they controlled it before, why would they let go now?
Wait a minute. Wait. Here it is. If they controlled it before, what makes you think they're not controlling it now?
And that's what we're doing, but we didn't build the facade to hijack it. We're just directly jacking in with straight communication right to you. I want you to succeed just like I want to succeed. When you fail, I fall.
We are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny.
And together, we have to rediscover what it is to be human. And look, I want to be completely straight with everybody. Because I say we should be healthy and not eat GMO. Because I say we shouldn't drink too much, or we should be strong, or we shouldn't watch too much TV. It doesn't mean I don't do all the things I say you shouldn't do. It just means that my soul's pointing in the right direction, and I am trying to tell you the things that I know from my core are best because I've experienced it. And I can assure you that the eye has not seen, the ear has not heard, the mind has not dreamt of what is in the potentiality of this species if we go to the next level.
The context of the actual verse has nothing to do with a human-centered, self-worshipping gospel of evolving to a higher dimension in order to achieve some sort of utopian fantasy of heaven on earth. It speaks of what God has prepared for those who trust in Him alone for salvation. But as it is written, eye hath not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, including Alex Jones, the things which God hath prepared for them that love Him.
But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God.
Look at everything we've done.
But looking at everything we've done, in all its abject futility and depravity, as you detail on your show day after day, Alex, is what leads the realist to conclude your message is one at odds with reality, firmly anchored on a cloud, feel-good fluff that is anything but truth.
I love dolphins. I love tigers. I love elephants. They're magic creatures. They aren't 1/100th as magic as we are. But the problem is that an elephant's majestic, strong, beautiful. A tiger, it's all kind of in the spectrum. It doesn't have those lows. It doesn't have those highs. See, we can go to the very bottom of hell. We can be the devil. Or we can transcend and join God.
spirit of evil is laying against us in an attempt to keep us from our birthright. And all I can tell you is the enemy's smart. These churches, when I go even near them, I almost throw up. They are satanic. The enemy is in the churches. They're in the media. They're in the government at the top. It doesn't mean the government's our enemy. But I'm here to tell you, if you simply humble yourself and get before God, the destiny is waiting, and we can have it all right now. Look at how chattel and sick all this crap is. All this tinfoil, all this color, all this crap, none of it means anything. What matters in this universe is passion and the willingness to reach out for beauty and everything that's good. And in that experiment, in that turning our will over to everything that's good and everything that came before us, we transcend the mortal bonds and join God. And then I know your spirit is the spirit that will chain the devil and restore humanity so that our species not fail. Because the enemy is a spirit of death, come to kill this planet and everything on it. And we are the guardians of this planet. And if we could prove ourselves at this level, it's a stairway to heaven. The fulfillment of human destiny is in your hands. And that's all I can tell you.
This is not the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is works-based salvation based on theosophist Gnosticism. It masquerades as a stairway to heaven, but it is in reality an elevator to hell. And now for a biblical counter perspective, the first Christian video I viewed on YouTube while I was still apart from God, thinking I was on the side of good and truth when I was only fooling myself. As God used it to reach me, so may He use it to reach someone else out there who is seeking truth and reaching out for Him.
Faith is the desperate thrust of a helpless soul upon the arms of an almighty Savior. Are you doing what Jesus, who speaks the words of the Father, are you doing what He says? Seek first the kingdom of God. Are you taking every step necessary to stop feeding your lust in God's name? Why? Will you sit through another service and stand by a signpost that points you away from hell and the wrath of God and to heaven and life and forgiveness and hug death to your breast? Oh, the madnesses. You are a vile, filthy, helpless, hell-deserving, wretched son or daughter of Adam. You know nothing of true repentance and therefore of true and saving faith. Or you just occasionally have a little whimper in the closet when your conscience gets so active you can't live with it. And you whimper and cry and ask God for a little help, and then you go right back with your hand and your eyeball firmly attached. Oh yes, once in a while you take a dull paring knife and scratch your hand, and occasionally you scratch around your eyeball, but you haven't begun to cut off and pluck out. You better listen to the words of Jesus. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, shall enter, but he that does the will of my Father in heaven. If ye by the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the flesh, ye shall live. If you live after the flesh, you'll die. The cross does not give us a minor shift or two with regard to a few of our ethical and moral and religious values. The cross radically disrupts the very center and citadel of your life from self to Christ. And if the cross has not done that, you're not a Christian. My friend, face it, young or old, you're not a Christian until the cross has radically disrupted the very center and citadel of your life and brought you from a life of commitment to serve self, whether it's religious self, moral self, proud self, covetous self, lustful self, prideful self, unforgiving self, lazy self. It doesn't matter. What are the focal points of the reign of yourself? If you've gone to the cross in union with Christ, it's been shattered. I want you in that day, when you stand with me before the judge of the world, to have him say, "Come, you blessed. Come, you blessed." I don't want to look at you standing there saying, "Lord, Lord, 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 I named you in earth. I named you before the elders. I named you before the church. I named you in prayer meeting. I named you in witness. And Lord, now, Lord, Lord, did I not this? Did I not that?" I don't want to hear him say, "Depart from me. I never knew you. You worker of iniquity. You never were made a doer of the will of God." You learned enough, and you learned what to say properly enough to be accepted for what you professed yourself to be on earth. But now the day of judgment is come, and the truth is now to be known.